Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The warm glow of lights flashed across the enormous ballroom of the Forrester estate, forming long shadows that danced like whispers of secrets to be revealed. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, their prisms refracting the warm hues into a kaleidoscope of gold and amber, lighting the faces of the assembled visitors. It was supposed to be a day of pure bliss, a union forged in the fires of love and salvation. Hope Logan stood at the altar, her gown a cascade of ivory silk that hugged her slim figure, the bodice adorned with delicate lace that spoke of fragility and strength combined. Her blonde hair was pulled up into a beautiful chignon, with a few tendrils escaping to surround her face like golden threads of fate. In her hands she held a bouquet of white roses, their petals as pure as the promises she was about to give. Liam Spencer waited behind her, his tuxedo expertly fitted, the immaculate white shirt contrasting strongly with the deep navy jacket. His blue eyes, which were normally so calm and reassuring, had a flicker of something unreadable today, a shadow Hope had dismissed as pre-wedding nervousness. They'd gone through so much. Betrayals that cut deeper than a knife, separations that tore at their souls, and reunions that felt miraculous. But now they were on the brink of eternity. The officiant, a pleasant older man with a velvet voice, droned on about eternal links and unwavering dedication, his words creating a tapestry of optimism that mirrored the bride's name. The audience included prominent members of Los Angeles high society, as well as the linked families of Forrester Creations and Spencer Publications. Brooke Logan, Hope's mother, sat in the front row, her eyes misted with pride as she dabbed them with a handkerchief embroidered with her initials. Ridge Forrester, the patriarch, nodded approvingly from his seat beside her, his arm stretched protectively over her shoulder. Steffy Forrester, Ridge's daughter and Hope's occasional opponent turned uncomfortable ally, took the seat close behind, her posture flawless in a sleek black gown that highlighted her athletic figure. Steffy's dark hair flowed in free curls, and her blue eyes, which matched her father's, swept the room with the piercing intensity of someone who had learned to fortify her heart with iron walls. Finn, Steffy's husband, sat alongside her, his hand lightly resting on her knee, a silent anchor in the emotional tempest that seemed to surround these family reunions. Taylor Hayes, Steffy's mother, murmured something to Ridge, eliciting a quiet giggle that echoed around the surrounding chairs. Eric Forrester, the revered designer whose legacy loomed above them all, smiled from his wheelchair, his weak hands clenched in ecstasy. Liam's father, Bill Spencer, lounged with his customary swagger, a glass of scotch already in hand despite the early hour, his eyes beaming with pride at seeing his son finally settle down with someone he approved of, barely. The vows continued, with Hope's voice cracking slightly as she spoke of second chances and her love for Liam. "You are my light in the darkness, the steady hand that guides me through the tempests of life," she continued, her gaze fixed on him. Liam repeated her feelings, his remarks polished yet heartfelt, promising a future free of the demons of their past. Rings were exchanged, simple platinum rings inscribed with their initials, symbolizing an unbroken circle. The officiant raised his arms. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Their lips met in a timid kiss that deepened with the passion of all they had undergone. Cheers erupted, glasses clinking in a symphony of delight. Hope pulled back, her cheeks flushed and her heart soared. This was it. The beginning of their tale had been rewritten, with the anguish of miscarriages and infidelities buried beneath the weight of the moment. As they turned to face the crowd, arms interlocked, the photographer signaled the receiving line. The guests rose, becoming a sea of joyful faces. But as Hope walked down the aisle, shaking hands and taking hugs, she felt a tickle at the back of her neck, like the chill of an open window in a stuffy room. She looked over her shoulder, and there was Steffy lingering at the edge of the gathering, her demeanor unusually melancholy. Their gazes connected and Hope saw it. Not delight, not even polite congratulations, but a depth of sadness that echoed her own from darker times. Steffy excused herself from Finn's side, murmuring an apology, and approached, her heels clicking forcefully across the marble floor. "Congratulations, Hope," Steffy muttered quietly, almost drowned out by the bustle around them. She leaned in for a hug which was brief and stiff, like two porcupines testing their spines. As they parted ways, Steffi's fingers lingered on Hope's arm, squeezing just enough to suggest urgency. We need to talk. Now. Hope frowned, puncturing the bubble of joy. Steffi, this is my wedding day. Can it wait? No, Steffi said, her jaw set in that determined expression Hope was all too familiar with. It can't. Meet me in the East Garden in 5 minutes, please. Liam was yanked away by Bill for a noisy backslap, leaving Hope stranded. Brooke noticed the interaction, her maternal radar pinging. Everything all right, darling? She inquired, brushing Hope's veil. Just Steffi being. Steffi, Hope explained with a strained smile. I'll be right back. The East Garden was a quiet oasis within the estate, surrounded by towering hedges of blooming jasmine that filled the air with fragrance. A stone fountain bubbled in the center, providing a peaceful contrast to the distant laughing from the ballroom. Hope rushed through the French doors, the crisp nighttime air sending goosebumps up her bare arms. Steffi was already there, pacing like a caged lioness and clutching her phone as if it were a lifeline. Steffi, what's going on? You're scaring me, Hope replied, closing the gap between them. Steffi paused, turning to face her with eyes that glistened in the lantern light. She took a big breath, as if about to make a long-buried confession. Hope, I didn't want to do this today. God of all days. But I can't let you walk into this marriage blind. You deserve the truth. Hope's gut wrenched, a familiar dread uncoiling. The truth about what? Liam? If this is about his past with Sally or that mess with Thomas. No, Steffi interrupted, shaking her head. It's about us. About me and Liam. And what happened after you two called off your engagement last spring? The words hung in the air like thick, stifling fog. Hope's thoughts returned to that awful interlude. The collapse of trust following Liam's one-night affair with Steffi during a time of vulnerability, and the subsequent separation, which had left Hope wondering everything. They had reconciled months prior, with therapy sessions and emotional apologies paving the way. Steffi's tone now hinted that there were fractures beneath the repair. Tell me, Hope said quietly, her voice barely heard above the fountain's music. Steffi swallowed hard, her free hand pressing against her abdomen. An instinctive, protective action that jolted Hope. After you left for that retreat in Aspen, Liam was a wreck. We both were. One night, after too many drinks at Il Giardino, we ended up together again. It was a mistake, born out of loneliness and old feelings that never fully died. But it wasn't just a night, Hope. It was the catalyst for something bigger. Hope's perspective shifted, the garden turning into a cloud that smelled like jasmine. What do you mean, bigger? Steffi's gaze met hers, strong and unwavering. I'm pregnant, Hope. With Liam's baby. The words shattered Hope's fragile tranquility. The dance cheers faded into a faraway roar, and the fountain drip became a mocking lullaby. Pregnant. Liam's baby. The man she had just promised eternity to, the father of her baby Beth, was now inextricably linked to another woman by the most primitive of relationships. Hope's legs collapsed, and she grabbed the edge of the fountain to keep herself stable, the cold stone slicing into her palms. No, she murmured, shaking her head as if denial might change reality. No, that's impossible. We talked about this. Liam swore it was over, that you two were just co-parenting Kelly amicably. He said, lies, Steffi whispered softly, not with triumph, but with a grief that mirrored Hope's. Or omissions, at least. He didn't want to hurt you again, not after everything. But I found out 2 weeks ago. The doctors confirmed it. 8 weeks along. It's his Hope. There's no doubt. Tears welled up in Hope's eyes, hot and persistent, tracing salty lines down her cheeks. She recalled the ultrasound photos from her own pregnancies, the small heartbeat flickering like a promise. Now that promise belonged to Steffi, the woman who had previously stolen Liam's heart, and had already given birth to his kid. Kelly, their daughter, was a live witness to the love Hope had battled to overthrow. And now another. It felt like a terrible cosmic joke, the cosmos mocking her limitless capacity for forgiveness. Why tell me now? Hope insisted, her voice cracking. At my wedding? Were you hoping to destroy it? Steffi's face crumbled and she reached out, but Hope retreated. I didn't plan it this way. I came to the wedding to support you, to try for once to be the bigger person. But when I saw you up there, so radiant, vowing your life to him, I couldn't let you build on sand. You deserve a choice, Hope. Not this half-truth masquerading as forever. The garden seemed to close in, the hedges towering like judgmental sentinels. Hope's mind raced through recollections of Liam's late nights at work, his unusual weariness dismissed as stress, and how he'd avoided intimacy over the last few weeks with excuses about wedding preparations. How naive she'd been, how strongly she'd wanted to believe in their redemption story. Does he know? She said, the question piercing her own heart. Not yet, Steffy acknowledged. I wanted to tell you first. Out of respect. Or maybe guilt. Finn doesn't even know. But Liam, he has to hear it from me tonight. Hope laughed bitterly, hollowly, echoing off the stones. Tonight? While we cut the cake and dance our first dance as husband and wife. How poetic. How utterly Forrester. I'm sorry, Steffy whispered, and the sincerity in her voice just made the situation worse. Despite their rivalry, Steffy has never shown hate without cause. This wasn't sabotage, it was kindness with barbed wire. I never wanted to love him again. But life, it has a way of complicating everything. Footsteps crunched on the gravel road, and both ladies turned. Liam appeared at the doorway, his brow twisted in anxiety. Hope? There you are. Everyone's asking for you. What's? His gaze turned to Steffy and the color drained from his cheeks. He understood right away because of the tension between them, which crackled like static before a storm. Liam, Hope replied, her voice firm now, forged in the furnace of treachery. She stood up, the bouquet forgotten at her feet, petals scattered like fallen dreams. Steffi's just shared some wonderful news. Congratulations. You're going to be a father again. His eyes widened and darted between them. What? Hope save it, she yelled, the Logan fire burning in her veins. She rushed by him, the fabric of her robe whispering accusations with each stride. The ballroom awaited, unsuspecting, a scene of fake happiness. Brooke caught up with her at the entrance, her eyes widening at her daughter's mascara-streaked mess. Hope? Sweetheart, what happened? Not now, Mom, Hope gasped, pushing past the mob. Donna and Katie murmured in concern, as Quinn took a sharp inhalation. She made it to the powder room, slamming the door behind her, and the mirror reflected an unmade bride. Veil askew, lipstick streaked, eyes red-rimmed with the raw edge of heartbreak. She slid to the floor, the tile cool against her skin, and let out tears. Steffi's hand on her belly, Liam's face crumpling in surprise, the ring on her finger suddenly heavy as shackles. How many times did she forgive him? For Steffy once, for a drunken misstep that almost ruined their relationship. Thomas's machinations pushed wedges deeper than reason. And now this, an innocent and demanding child who will bind them all together in a web of co-parenting and stolen looks. Minutes passed into forever, the party's music seeping under the door like an unwanted intruder. A waltz that taunted her seclusion. A gentle but relentless knock rang forth. Hope? It's me. Liam's voice was muffled and begging. Go away, she said, but the door creaked open nevertheless. He slipped inside, closing it against the outside world, his tie unbuttoned and his jacket tossed someplace in his haste. Hope, please. Let me explain. Explain what? She stood up, wheeling to face him, her reflection gone. That you slept with Steffy again? That you built a life with her while planning our future? Or that you lied by omission every time you held me and said we were over it? He paced the small room, running his fingers through his hair. It was one time. A stupid, regret-filled night when I thought I'd lost you for good. I never meant for consequences, she interjected, her laugh piercing as shattered glass. Life doesn't work like that, Liam. Not in our world. You knew the risks. You always do. I love you, he whispered, edging forward, his hands raised in prayer. This doesn't change that. We can handle this. Therapy, boundaries, whatever it takes. Steffi's with Finn. This baby. It'll be part of our extended family like Kelly. Hope's heart broke even more at the mention of boundaries. A euphemism for the careful dance they'd choreographed around Steffi's presence. Family, she said angrily. Is that what this is? Another layer in the Forster-Spencer dysfunction? Beth deserves better than a father torn between two women, two lives. Beth adores Kelly, he cried out. And she'll love this child too. We can make it work. But even as he spoke, Hope could see the deception in his eyes, the spark of delight at the news, the unsaid tug toward Steffy and their new life together. She removed her ring, the gold warm against her flesh, and pushed it into his palm. I can't marry you like this. Not with her secret, or yours, hanging over us. Call it off. Tell them it's cold feet or venue issues. I don't care. Just let me go. Liam crumpled his face, the ring glinting like a fallen star in his grasp. Hope, no. Please. We're here. The vows? Were lies, she said, her voice breaking. All of it. She swept past him and entered the corridor where Brooke waited, flanked by Ridge and Taylor, their features furrowed with concern. The word had spread like wildfire through the dry brush. Whispers turned to murmurs, and people exchanged glances over champagne flutes. The wedding's off, Hope stated, her head high in defiance of the tears that threatened to fall again. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Chaos ensued. Brooke's gasp, Ridge's demand for information, Taylor's touch on Steffy's arm as she arrived on the outskirts, her own eyes downcast. Finn hovered protectively, bewilderment vying with loyalty. Bill rushed in from the bar, scotch spilling. What the hell is this? Spencer, men don't back down from a fight. But Hope had already moved, shedding the veil like a too-tight skin, her heels echoing her retreat. Outside, the valet retrieved her car, the night air fresh with the promise of fall. She drove aimlessly at first, the city lights blurring through her tears. Rodeo Drive's glitz was a farce, the Hollywood sign a distant joke. She eventually found herself at the shore, where she and Liam had initially proclaimed their love under the stars. She kicked off her shoes, the sand cold and soft underfoot, and walked to the water's edge. The waves lapped at her ankles, relentless and indifferent. Pregnant. The term resonated in her thoughts like a litany of grief. She reflected on her own body, which had once been swollen with Beth's promise before being emptied by tragedy. Envy tugged in her gut, not for Steffy, but for how easily life confirmed some while denying others. What did this signify for her? For Douglas, the son she had adopted in an effort to start a family? Are the Logans always the underdogs in the Forrester shadow? Hours passed, the moon rising high before her phone buzzed constantly. Brooke texted, "Come home, darling. This is something we can fix." From Liam, "I love you. Please chat to me." Steffy shockingly apologized. "I'm so sorry. For everything." Hope muffled it, letting the ocean's roar drown it out. Dawn crept in, painting the sky in pinks and oranges, ushering in a new day born of sadness. She returned to the Logan estate as the sun rose, the house still save for Brooke's vigil in the living room, a pot of tea steaming on the coffee table. They spoke then, mother and daughter, words cascading like pebbles in a brook. Brooke recounted her own list of heartbreaks, including Ridge's insatiable desire for Taylor, and affairs that left scars but were never entirely severed. "Love isn't clean, Hope," she added, touching her daughter's hair. "It's messy with sharp edges, but you decide what you keep and what you let go." By midday, the headlines were already buzzing. Forrester wedding drama. Hope Logan calls it off. The paparazzi swarmed the gates, but Hope withdrew to her studio at Forrester Creations, the only place where fabric and thread could repair what words could not. She scribbled furiously, creating gowns of resilience and veils of renewal, pouring her pain into patterns that talked of survival. Liam arrived that evening, uninvited but undeterred, his eyes sunken after a night without sleep. They sat on the balcony, overlooking the city, with an untouched bottle of wine between them. "I told Steffy we needed to co-parent this baby without complicating things," he added, his voice rough. "DNA test if you want, but it's mine. And I want to be there for her, for Kelly, for Beth. But you're my wife in my heart, Hope. Even without the paper." She examined him, the man she'd loved since college, the father of her child, the architect of her greatest scars. "I need time," she admitted finally, "to grieve this, to see if trust can be rebuilt from ashes." He nodded, relief flaring. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait." But waiting was a luxury in their society, where secrets festered and relationships moved like sand. Days merged into weeks. Steffy's pregnancy became the elephant in every room. Her morning sickness a discreet announcement at family dinners Eric insisted on for unity. Hope watched from a distance as Steffy and Finn dealt with the news, Finn's unwavering support is salve Hope envied. Liam threw himself into work at Spencer, but his visits to Hope were sweet and full of gestures. Her favorite cappuccino, a pendant containing Beth's photo, messages penned in his looping style expressing eternal love.